welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Today I'll be talking to Ariana. Ariana will be telling me about the challenges she's facing now that we're on lockdown. We're going through a coronavirus pandemic. The whole world seems to be shutting down from this awful pandemic. I'll be talking to Ariana to understand how she, who is based in the West End, doing theatre, artistic role, she's a creative lady, is being affected by this, and how she's staying sane. She's from the mountains of Puerto Rico. Her favorite pastime has always been immersing herself in other words using books, sketch pads, video games, and songs. One of Ariana's most memorable bits is that Ariana played the iconic role of Maria in the curved version of West Side Story, from which she was nominated for Best Performer in a Musical in the Stage Debuts Award. I'm super delighted to talk to her because I really want us to understand some of the key issues affecting people who have spent their life training to become the best version of themselves, to give us all in their performance. But now, due to the pandemic, they are unable to perform, unable to know what the future holds for them. What next? Meet Ariana. Universal conversation with myself and Welsh. I have Adriana here with me. She is all the way based in Puerto Rico right now. With our lockdown, she's doing well being Puerto Rico. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you, Anne. It's yeah, it's a sunny day here. It's I think it's 10 a.m. We're doing okay.
Oh, great. That's great. It's always nice to hear that everyone and our people are doing well, especially at this time. This year's 2020 has been a very interesting year for so many. One of the reasons I reached out to you is just to talk about, I've seen your work and I'm really excited with your work. You've done amazing things in the West End when you were here and out in London. And it's fascinating. But anyway, before we get to that, your work in the West End, let's talk about a little bit. If you just share us a synopsis, who is Adriana?
My goodness. Oh, well, Adriana, I actually was born in Bayamon, Puerto Rico, which is close to the city. But I always say that I am from Naranjito and that I came from the mountains with my grandma. So every Sunday and almost every Saturday, I went up over there when I was growing up as a child and as a teenager. And I have the most beautiful memories there with my grandma. My grandmother, she didn't go to school. I think, if I am correct, she studied elementary and then, stayed in the country helping her father and her mother. And but my grandma was so smart. She was a beautiful lady. She was a poet. She was very meek and mild. But then when she got older, I met her. She was a completely different woman, and she was colorful and bright. And I think I always admire that from her. She always spoke, and she didn't matter, where she was. She spoke the truth and her truth, and she was a person who always loved helping people everyone. And so yes, she was my role model growing up. And I fell in love with storytelling from a very young age. So my grandma, she had two sons, and her eldest son, he had two sons,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and they were like my big brothers. I love them, and they introduced me to video game growing up, and I I love video games, and that was my first introduction to storytelling. And then from video games, I went to films, and from films, I went to books, and from books, I went to plays. And my goodness, it's a play is I loved it. It was hard for me to talk to other people when I was growing up. I always felt like I was a little bit misunderstood for various reasons, and theater just became my lifesaver. I could be a strong woman in theater, which I do not think that I am a strong woman in real life. I could be, live through, put different skins of different people, and relate to other people and learn their stories and become a better human being through them. And oh my goodness, yeah. I don't know if you have any specific questions that you would like to.
No, absolutely. No, I wanted to go for it because when you started playing, because a lot of people go into, like, I think what you've almost just said, you said you went into this thing because you found yourself as a different person. You could be, did you feel like you were running away from that shy girl? And when you're this person, you're this new character who could almost like a superhero. Did you ever feel like that when you were in a play?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had something magical happen to me when I touch the boards on a theater, or when I'm in front of a classroom. And that is, I just forget all if inhibitions, I believe it's the word.
Yes.
And it's, thankfully for me, it's easy to just forget myself and become a different person studying their circumstances. And I just love that about theater, because I forget I forget all of my worries, even though I take worries of other people,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's a good question. When you talk about this, right, you talk about the theater. Um, is it difficult because you were from Puerto Rico and you came over to the UK and started doing very well? What was that transition like? Is it very hard as an actor, an actress, to go in there and find roles? What persuades you to leave that path?
okay, so I'm gonna be as honest and correct. And so I grew up in Puerto Rico, and I chose not to study in the United States because I didn't agree with their gun laws policy. There were a lot of different things that I didn't like. The healthcare system, it seemed unfair to me. And at the time, the precedent that they had, it was a bit, I think, harsh for me to study there.
Yeah.
So I went to the UK. I auditioned for a few universities. When I say I went to the UK, it's not immediately. I actually auditioned in New York.
Okay.
And there I met Dan Bowling and Matt Ryan, which they were in the course of the Royal Academy of Music. And I was scared because I was a strong actor, but musically, my roles are, I look like a Hamilton, but I sound like a phantom. So it was a bit of a challenge. I didn't know that. I don't know if they would like my voice for them, but I auditioned anyway. Thankfully, they liked my person, and they saw that theater was, I have immense respect for it, immense love. And I studied there, and it was eye-opening. It was the first time I was in Europe, although I had made a student exchange when I was in the University of Puerto Rico here to California.
Okay.
I was studying animation at the time because I thought that I wanted to be a digital animator for movies. But I couldn't just sit there and animate for hours and hours and hours. I wanted to be the characters.
Wow. Okay.
So yes, fast forward, I went to the Royal Academy of Music, and
In
I in London, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it all in, all the beautiful parks, the buildings with so much history, the students. It was a very international course. So we had half of the class was from the UK and the other half of the class was from all over the world. We had Japanese, we had people from Hong Kong, from Ireland, and from so many different parts of the world, Sri Lanka. And I loved it. I loved it. I never. I wanted to. How do I say this? I went there because I wanted to perfect my craft. I wanted to be proud of myself.
Yeah.
So, getting jobs is always the cherry on top. But I've always been clear in the fact that theater for me is part of my life, and even if I don't get jobs, I'll rehearse on my own. I'll try to collab with other people, and yeah, I mean,
Magic happened. And the first time you got a job in the theater, how did that go?
so the first job that I got, the first professional job, was West Side Story, and it was directed by Nikolai Foster, and it was part of the Curve Theater. It was, oh my goodness, it's one of the best experiences of my life. It was surreal because I got to represent, West Side Story is a bit of a delicate topic here in Puerto Rico because a lot of Puerto Ricans don't like the way that they were represented in the film, although the film kind of put them on the map in front of the world.
Yes.
And so it was a wonderful experience because I got to represent a character that was Puerto Rican, that was young, that was grew up in Puerto Rico and actually lived for only a little bit of time in the United States, and I got to do it in England.
Yes.
And I got to collab with a cast of wonderful actors, dancers, and artistic professionals, and they heard my ideas. They incorporated into the play, and it made it just that much more authentic and beautiful. And I can say West Side Story is, it was. I was extremely lucky to play that role in that time, and especially for my first professional job. So it was really funny auditioning for it.
And
yes.
Yeah. And I was going to ask, because when I read your bio, there's a bit where you're now in this actress and you're doing this theater play, and you go on, you become so used to it that your performance starts within getting recognized. How was it being recognized for the job you were now doing? Is it for Maria? Was it Maria?
It was for Maria. Sí,
Yes. So that tell me, I mean, that must be fascinating to hear.
Oh my goodness. First of all, it's always I thought it was great because it's always usually Anita, the fiery woman, who gets recognized, who gets those roles or the people who play the women who play those roles are usually who get the recognition in awards or nominations or reviews. But I was really proud to make Maria a very lively and real character, and I always say I based Maria in my grandma, so I kind of took her life and her circumstances, and I mixed her circumstances with Maria's circumstances, and it was a very different Maria, very lively, very flirty, naive and young, and yeah, it was. I'm very, very happy, very honored,
Yeah.
and very grateful that people, liked her, liked my work, and liked our production of West Side Story. I'm very grateful. Thank you for everyone who saw it. Yes.
No, that's amazing. I'm really delighted that your work was recognized because you were really yourself. Now, coming
Thank
to
you.
now, the pain of 2020 pandemic, it's almost killed creativity because of the pandemic. People can't go to theater to see your beautiful work. Your talent is sitting at home rather than being in a theater, facing yourself and telling us, to show, entertaining the world. How are you dealing with this struggle of this pain?
you know, it's been hard. Uh, it's been hard for not for only for me, but for the whole theater community and for musicians,
Mm,
for dancers.
yeah.
Not only us, but for people who work in wardrobe and lights and direction. And I hear Nikolai, I message him sometimes, and it's devastating that such of wonderful theaters and around London are closing, and England and the UK. Thankfully, Curve is staying afloat. I think Curve is my second home, from here in Puerto Rico to the UK. So I have a lot of love for that theater.
Mm,
Um, for me personally, it's been really hard.
mm,
I took up theater. I take up art. I take up singing
mm,
because I tried, to escape my reality and my problems. And suddenly that being under extraordinary circumstances, that being taken away from me, I feel, and from us, I feel, oh, now I have to sit alone with my thoughts. I have to face the problems that I don't want to face and that I've been not necessarily running away from, but that I've been subduing, that I've been relieving from pain with theater. Now there's no one for me to perform to, unless, there's always a way. When there's a will, there's a way. If I really, really wanted, I could make an a virtual play.
yes.
Um, I think it's been hard for me because I always put other people's needs first, and I like it that way. I like being needed by other people. I like being called for help from other people and doing things. But when it comes to myself,
Mm,
it's always been very hard. Now, where does so then this whole self analysis comes from? So I've been lucky enough that my parents, they still welcome me in their home, and I couldn't get financial aid in the UK because I hadn't paid taxes in the UK yet. I just recently graduated from school, from my master's degree over there. So I came over here. I've been sporadically giving singing lessons. I draw. I'm an artist. I've been taking up my craft again, and having commissions from people, and practicing in that way. I've been seeing a psychologist.
I
Yeah.
really feel what you're saying because I think post 2020, post the pandemic, we always, as human beings, automatically, we run away from our problems through keeping busy. And all of a sudden, the pandemic forced us to come back to that reality that we've all been running away from. You know, I have my kids. All of a sudden, I had to homeschool this children that I spent most Monday to Friday. They're in school, so that's a problem I deleted. Oh, I could travel, I could do whatever. But all of a sudden, the pandemic brought me back to reality that you do have kids, you do have all of that. And look, you have all of this, so you need to take care of this. You can't keep running away from it. So what I decided to do was to look at all of this and find joy in it. So I deleted the thing pain and made it painless. I deleted all the pains that I was running away from me and found it and went again, review it through a different eye. Because before
Yeah.
I wasn't really looking, but this time I looked deeper and found,
Yeah.
okay, the kids are here. Yes, I didn't want that. I was running away from that. But I'm going to make this a joyful time for me and the kids. I created activity and I made it fun. And I think this is what you're finding now. Yes, the theater is closed, but you just said it. There's so much joy in other things, and you started to
Mhm.
really find your true self rather than being
Yeah.
needy for people. You found that there are things you could give. There are people
Yeah.
who need your skills, people who need you in Puerto Rico. You don't know
Mhm.
who they are. You started teaching single lessons. Many children want to be like you when they grow up, and now you're giving them an inspiration and a reason to be like you. So tell me, to come to the end of this, how have you found hope? What's your hope for the future for the
My
people?
hope for the future. Well, my hope for the future. Do you mean my hope for humanity, my hope for myself, my hope for the industry?
For the industry, more for the industry.
For the industry. Oh, I hope and I know that will we will be okay. I mean, the arts are not the first time that they have been in danger. They're not the first time that theaters are closed and throughout history. And it's been hard, but we will come back. I feel for the people who have had to, look for other jobs, to change right now their career plans to survive. Um, but I hope that if the opportunity comes for them, they will retake it, and the theaters will open, and the musicians will be there, and we can share that storytelling and that experience with the audience and communicate through that. I know it will happen. We will be okay. Yeah.
Adriana,
Yeah.
Adriana, I really appreciate talking to you. Your words
Thank you.
with me, and I'm so delighted that you took the time out to really emphasize the key issues and key pain people are going through in your industry right now. And with hope and with being positive and faith, hopefully we will get through this together. Thank you so much.
See,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.